All right, looks like we are live. Let's see if Tyler can get in here. Uh, you look like you're moving, Tyler. So whatever you did seems to be working better. So
Right.
good morning,
I
everyone.
see him.
This is kind of a last minute pivot. We saw that the big fellas, Dion and Zuber, had a 5 a.m. live or 11 a.m. live Eastern. So I said, nobody's gonna tune into ours if they're going. So I just changed the time. So hopefully we have some people tune in, have some questions. But yeah, good morning. We got Jack, Curtis, Chris, and Tyler. Some of you may not know Tyler, but he was one of the first guests on my channel. He's in my mastermind that we're in. But Tyler, why don't you quickly introduce yourself real fast, man?
Sure, yeah. Thanks, Mark, for having me. I'm here in Hawaii also, so it's pretty early, but I've been an investor for 22 years or so. Kind of did a wide gamut of things, single family rentals, the house hacking thing. Shifted to a lot of alternate investing about 6 years ago now. And, I've done notes, multifamily syndications, office syndications, um, do some business investments now, play a little bit in the stock market. So kind of a little bit about everything and just trying to get that money.
Oh, he went to UW. You went to UW, right?
Yeah. So I went to college in the University of Washington, was also a naval officer for a little while, um, and then moved around and then, yeah, back home here now in Hawaii.
That's kind of in Curtis's area a little bit, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
Curtis is in the.
I'm in Tacoma, about an hour south. So
Nice. And
Yeah, so
yeah,
Curtis invests there. He's house hacks. He has a YouTube channel. Go check him out. Chris is in Virginia, and Jack also invests in Pittsburgh. So this topic was kind of brought up by Curtis. Kind of the 9 to 5 transferable skills, or kind of does your 9 to 5 hold you back, maybe, or how do you leverage that in your investing? So Curtis, what was this on the top of your mind?
yeah, this has come up a couple of times when I've talked to people and they ask me with what I'm doing, or they see a social media post. I'm like, oh, I can never be a landlord or investor. Um, I always tell them, yes, you could. And then I try to tell them, I've seen you do this, I've seen you do that. Like, you can communicate well, you're nice at math, right? And so just trying to get people to understand that while you may not have ever done it, you have skills that can transfer over to being an investor.
So who still has a 9 to 5? I know Tyler surfs all day and sleeps until 11, so he's retired basically. But who has a 9 to 5?
I mean,
Yeah,
six to
me,
six
yeah,
count.
yeah. So who has a perspective
Double.
from their 9 to 5 leveraging it, or is it holding them back, they think?
I can say it. I don't think it
Yeah,
holds any. It
go
doesn't
ahead.
hold me back at all. I think that it allows me to get certain funding, and it also we had a rehab that we had to do recently that went way over budget, and some of you may know, but Mark does know that the last unit that I bought, um, we had to replace the roof immediately, and then we had a couple other things that kind of fell through, and insurance didn't come up. So what happened is my reserve significantly declined, and then we had this somebody tore up the unit and we had to move out. Well, my W-2 covered that cost. If I didn't have the W-2, I would have had to have gone into debt or other types of ways to fund that. But I was able to do it because I had the W-2. And I talked to, so here's the other thing too, though. I have a good relationship with the contractor that I worked with, and I explained to him the situation, and he gave me time to make up those payments so that I could spread it out over my W-2 income. So he wasn't wondering, well, where's this income coming from? You have variable income. He understood that I go to work every day and that I get paychecks every 2 weeks. So I think it really helped in that situation.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that kind of launches me into my piece on in the teaching world. A lot of it's focusing on relationships. Focus on the relationships. First few weeks of school, it kind of makes the rest of the trimester easier. And we as teachers, we have all the content, like knowledge in our brain, but if we don't have the relationships, nothing's going to happen. And I think that really translates to the real estate world, because you can know all the formulas, you can run all the numbers, but if you don't have the relationships, it's going to be a bumpy ride.
Yeah, I was gonna to piggyback off of I'm sorry, I can't read the name. Invest
You
LYH.
can call me Chris. Yeah, that's fine.
Chris. To piggyback off of what Chris was saying, I honestly can't think of anything that W2 really holds you back on, because you get better financing, you have money coming in to put toward it. The only way I would see to say that your W2 is holding you back is if you honestly have enough cash flow coming in, or whatever it is, or you have more money coming in from your businesses and stuff, if that's what you're doing. If, and you're just working your W2 basically for more or less no reason, just because you like it or something, then in that case, it could be holding you back.
And I'll add real quick before Tyler goes, the one area I think it does hold some people back is time.
Yeah.
If I had more time, I could probably be churning a few more deals. There is a deal that's coming up that I know of that it could be a possible flip. I don't have the time to go there and do a lot of the management, so I might do it with somebody else. But I think that would be the only drawback, in my opinion. It would be the time. Now, is that something that a lot of people who are W-2 employees, they say, if I get into the investing world, I have to manage it? Is that a person issue? Because as many of us know, Tyler, you could probably speak of this, when you you don't abdicate, but you allow for people underneath you to probably manage certain things.
Yeah, no, I'll share. I mean, I did forget to mention, I did have a 9 to 5. I was an engineer. So besides the Navy, I was a civil servant engineer with the federal government. So I think the initial question about the skill sets, as an engineer, we did a lot of project management. I also was a supervisor, so you're kind of managing people. Those skill sets to me directly translate. And the idea of being able to, or relationships, or working in a team, or being able to communicate with others, and that to me truly translates, and what is one of the key skill sets needed for investing. Now, on the kind of not the skill set part, but like the time or energy, my first engineering job was in a very secure place. So it was still with the military, but it was secure. So I couldn't have my personal phone or access to personal email. At that time, I was a landlord, self-managing a lot of my properties. So being not as available kind of hindered maybe the response time, or the service aspect to the tenants. So there's that part, but the steady paycheck as far as for financing is huge, right? I left the W-2 work in 2021. That was my biggest concern, is as far as being able to get lending, which I'm a big fan of leverage and being able to get your lending for your projects. And you have to be a lot more creative if you're not having that, that steady 9 to 5. And banks traditionally just look at your paycheck. Investments on paper a lot of times look like losses, especially real estate. So that makes taxes favorable, getting lending challenging. So
I want to thank MJ for stopping by. He says, do what you got to do so you can do what you want to do. So, yeah, and I'm trying to convince MJ to buy his tickets for the Vegas event. He keeps going back and forth, but she just pulled the trigger. But yeah, I also want to touch on Tyler, like I said, you're one of the first people I interviewed for my channel. But you had I always like to tell that story. I don't know if you remember, but like I believe you were in college. You know, you had roommates. You were paying the landlord rent, right? And then
Mhm.
you guys had to move out. You know, and then you saw him. He was collecting your rent at the next location that you were
Yeah.
at. Was that kind of the story?
Yeah. Essentially, we had a 10-bedroom house with a group of Hawaii people, and it wasn't the best house, but we did move, and it was basically another home from that same landlord, and it just got me thinking about that's what I want to do. I want to come once a month and collect a paycheck, and do that and just multiply that. So that really got my brain thinking. This was 2000, or basically 2000, 1999, 2000 timeframe. Not a lot of podcasts or education out there or things, or blogs, and that was my first aha. Um, and then I kind of read Rich Dad Poor Dad and those kind of things later, but it really was just me seeing for myself in action, um, kind of passive income from by our landlord. And literally, it was just a short conversation that planted the seed. And I think he never really intended to do that or wasn't doing any mentoring. It was just a conversation we had where I just asked him, hey, what is he doing? And it ended up he had 3 of these properties, and he goes around and collects them. And very hands off for him, because we were doing a lot of the work or the repairs or um, the upkeep, just because we felt responsible for that.
Yeah, so at my college, that was the same thing. It was Mark, and this is like 2015, 16 time, and you see on Venmo all your friends paying the same guy. Right? So on the first of the month, you're like, oh, wow, okay. And then when you go to sign the lease, I was talking to Mark. I said, Mark, how many of these do you own? And he didn't tell me a number, but he's basically like, if you throw a rock from your deck, you can hit my house. Right? And I was like, holy smokes. And so knowing what my friends were paying him, I'm like, this guy's got what you doing? I'm like, Mark, so were you like big money guy? Were you a banker or something? Like, how did you buy all these? He was like, no, I was a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, oh, okay. So what do you do now? He says, nothing. I do whatever I want. And that was like an aha moment too, where I was like, okay, this guy can do it as a teacher, and I can visually see on like the Venmo
Mm-hmm.
all the money he's getting. Maybe that's the route that I go to.
Yeah, definitely. For me personally, I was never really a high earner. Even as kind of one of the higher levels of the federal government for engineering. I'm not cracking 200,000, so it, it's doable. My first income was from the military, so again,
Mm-hmm.
pretty. I just have to be very efficient and streamlined with my investing. That's why I'm with leverage, lending. That was a big component to it, which real estate allows you to do that, right? So, um, the one challenge that I would say, just like probably within your guys' own networks with friends or work, since we're trying to stay on topic of the 9 to 5 relation, you might hear some negative feedback, right, from others who are not doing what you want to do, and maybe
Mm-hmm.
kind of knocking or saying that it won't work, or it's not for you, or it's a scam. So um, within any circle, and especially the 9 to 5 circle, I didn't have a lot of um, colleagues kind of on the same journey or in the same mindset.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I had more what I would call crabs, kind of holding you down, and that can be challenging, and that's why, like, I met Mark in uh, um, a mastermind group, And those masterminds or those meetups or just being able to talk to other like-minded people, which often is not your colleagues at a 9 to 5. They have probably different goals, maybe of moving up the ladder, or kind of maybe that's their plan, which I'm not going to knock it. It's just different from maybe what investors or what we had as our goals and our ideas.
I don't know what you're talking about. These unsanctioned meetups that I've never been to, that are at your house, that I never show up for.
Yeah, I'm a
Mark,
fan of relationships, right? And that's the whole thing. It's like Curtis, how you're saying, right? Relationships. To me, relationships first is what helps you, right? Like teamwork makes the dream work, or all ships rise, rising tide. Just that concept. It can get lonely. Like, not for me now, not having that 9 to 5. I don't have that forced daily social interaction with a lot of people, good or bad. And it's these kind of relationships I've formed. And of course, it is a little bit harder finding people to hang out with during the normal work day week, or the work day. But you'll find your tribe, and that's really what propelled me versus my relationships at work. But
I know for me, my biggest thing was when I was probably up to like maybe a year or so ago or something like that. I felt very alone. There's no one to talk to at my W-2. It's kind of more or less you just go to work and you just do what you have to do and you move forward. And it wasn't until I bought, and I don't know why I can't ever remember the class, but Mike Zuber's big class where you get access to the Facebook community. And that's where I met Mark and Mikey. And I finally, at that point, started to feel like, I wasn't alone on my own little island in Pittsburgh.
And I'll talk a little bit about the loneliness aspect of it too, because it's I had an interaction with a family member of mine about a month ago. I went home, and my nephew is thinking about buying a duplex, and I was like, "Oh yeah, that'd be a great idea." I read through some of the financing with him, and so when I got back home, I sent him a video. And my brother-in-law is a speaker. He writes for a large news organization, and he goes around the country and speaks, and he has a podcast. And so my nephew sent me a message, and he said, "Hey, have you ever thought about starting a podcast or a YouTube channel?" The video I sent him was my YouTube channel. I'm like, come on, man. So even with your own family, sometimes you can feel isolated because of the way that we look at investing. And I think that MJ had a comment earlier that talked about do what you need to do now so that you can do what you want to do. And I think that that second portion of doing what we want to do is the real hook for some people, because then we can find our tribe without our W-2 attached to it, where we don't have that forced interaction. But maybe, like for my wife and I, we love cats. Maybe we can go work at the MSPCA for a couple hours every week. And now we have that interaction with those people. And they're like, "What are you doing here? You're young. You should be working." "Well, I retired." "Well, how'd you do that?" "Oh, well, let me show you how I did it." Things like that. So I think that having that end goal in mind, it really goes further in terms of you being able to remove from that isolation and being able to find your people who you can talk to about this. And similar to what Jack said, a lot of times those people are online, they're not around you. I am lucky, and I'm sure you guys are too. I have a great local meetup. And I think I talk to the guys in my local meetup more than I do my family at this point, other than my wife. But because we have similar goals, we have similar thought process. So I thought that was interesting. That my nephew sent me that, and he asked me that, and I'm like, dude, are you kidding me right now?
Yeah, prime example with like the meetup group is I tell them, hey, yeah, I'm gonna try to get a roommate, fast track the saving even more, get pats on the back, sweet, it's happy. I tell coworker, yeah, I think I'm gonna get like a roommate and kind of do like I did my first house hack, and they're like, what? They're gonna live in the same like unit as you. They're gonna try to kill you. They're gonna poison your food. I'm just like, what are you even talking about?
And I tell people that, I tell the young people that I work with at that, and they kind of have the same thought process. Well, I don't know if I want to buy a house and have a roommate. And I go, where are you living now? And he's like, oh, we got a 3-bedroom townhouse that we're renting. I go, just you? He goes, no, I have 2 roommates.
Just move them over.
I know.
Yeah, so Jack was talking about Zuber's course, and then Chester put in a comment, says how to get started one rental at a time. And then Chester just closed on his property, so he's kind of also learning the whole landlording side on how there's a lot of paperwork and things like that. So Chester's doing a great job out there too. So
and where is Chester investing? Because I know he's
Detroit,
up
I
in
think.
Northern Virginia.
Detroit. Yeah, he got his
Detroit?
turnkey in
Okay.
Detroit. Yeah. But,
Congratulations, Chester.
Yeah.
yeah. So Tyler, what about you, man? So what skill would you say from the Navy or your 9 to 5, I guess, would you say probably has helped you reach that kind of retirement stage, like you're saying already, quickly?
Yeah, and I hate to say that I'm retired because I still manage and work hard on all my
No,
investments,
you
but
don't.
yeah, I do what I want to do, right? So that I have that luxury, or, I'm blessed with that. But I mean, for me, just I would say being an engineer, I think, and being exposed to just solving problems, that is the biggest skill set. So, as an engineer, I feel like we're just problem solvers, really. There's things. And then specifically of the project, I was more about project management, whether it was ship repair or like building constructions or leasing. Um, that specific skill set allowed me to kind of just use that same skill sets of managing a project, whether it's a renovation for my own personal portfolio or for work. It's all the same skill sets. And at the shipyard here, for my first federal job, they were big on training, and it was all about getting project management certified. And that skill set, whether you're managing IT project or a bathroom renovation or a large new construction multifamily place, it's all the same overall skill set. And then the engineering aspect, you're always going to run into problems, and you always have to be sort of maybe creative on the solution. So that's the problem solving, just engineering mindset part, and just kind of knowing that I guess for my engineering and my background is a little bit different because it's all within the government. So we kind of are dealt a cart, right? Like even my staff, a lot of my staffing, especially in the military, I was a naval officer, so I had a division that I was in charge of. You're dealt that hand. You can't pick and choose your team. So it made the relationships or the interaction part. You have to be a little bit more in tune with a lot of that, because it's not like you could just fire someone and replace them with someone else. You're dealt that hand. And then when I transferred out of the military to the federal side, similarly, it's the moving people around is very hard within a federal organization, and you are kind of dealt the hand you're dealt. So you learn to kind of make the best and out of what you have, identifying people's strengths and weaknesses, and then putting them in the right roles. And at the end of the day, the job still got to get done. But that was my biggest probably hurdle and challenge myself. It's the W-2 ended up sucking up so much time, because I would end up doing a lot of it, right? Which I shouldn't have, especially at maybe a leadership or like a supervisory role, where you have team members assigned to do things. I was focused on getting the task done, and even if that involved me doing it. So that kind of just came from, I feel, the military background, saying the job got to get done, and if it's not getting done, I'll step in and do it. But
So Chester has a question for you. He says, "What ship were you on?" He was on the USS Mahan, out of Norfolk, Virginia.
yeah, I was USS Taylor out of Jacksonville, Florida, or Mayport. So that was my surface ship that I got, surface warfare qualified on. And after that, I lateraled out to the engineering duty community. So I went to Monterey, California for post-grad school, which was the best duty station I had. It was 2 years of being a college student again. And then a station here in the shipyard here at Pearl Harbor for ship repair or engineering duty.
Hey, Tyler, can I ask you a question about project management?
Sure.
So you probably manage multiple projects at one point, right?
Yeah.
So could employees essentially take that skill set and manage their W-2 role and their investor role simultaneously?
I would say definitely. I would say it. I mean, we're all doing that, right? I think we're all multitasking and managing different things, different aspects of our life. People don't, I think, realize that. And I mean, there's just a lot of distractions from when I was growing up, right? I mean, it's so easy to lose 45 minutes here or there.
I do that right here.
Yeah, and it's hard. I mean, because there are good things, right? Like I go on social media, I go on YouTube a lot. A lot of it is for education purposes. My kids go on there, and a lot of it is just a time suck, right? It's entertainment, which it's the same tool but different purposes. And I always felt, you don't need one of the best advice I had is you don't need to do much. You just do something consistently over time.
Yep.
And it could be reading for 10 minutes, right? Like everyone has probably 10 minutes, and you read 10 minutes for 2 months, you'll probably be a pretty well-educated person on that topic compared to the rest of your peers. And I'm not going to say you're an expert, but you are leaps and bounds ahead of someone who didn't do it. And all you did was like read 10 minutes a day, which people can squeak that. You can find 10 minutes. And that's the biggest challenge, is when you're like within my job, you would hear people providing a lot of reasons, and it's really to me excuses of not bettering themselves or kind of being in the position they are and just feeling hopeless. And I would say that everyone has a lot more control over things than they think, and understand people are working multiple jobs, really struggling with time, but usually you can also see where there's a lot of waste. And but yeah, multitasking, managing multiple projects, and you can see that skill set with people, that they have that ability or capability of doing it. They just choose not to do other.
Yeah, like you,
and just
Curtis, right?
to tie this
Like,
back into the investing, if you read 10 minutes a day on investing, and Mark, Jack, and Curtis, if you guys want to add to this, I think what it does for you as an investor when you don't have properties yet, it allows you to ask the proper questions to the people who do.
Yeah, definitely.
well, I was gonna say, like, Curtis, because like even like time, like, you're doing stuff on your breaks. You're like, hey, I can jump on a live in between this break, or we get out of school this time. And so all of us are kind of like Tyler was saying, you're kind of juggling and maximizing how much time you have available. Like, I know Jack does stuff in his car. He records YouTube videos, so go check out Jack's channel. But he does stuff while he's driving. He does stuff in his car. So everyone's just trying to maximize their time out there.
Oh, so you want to hear a funny story about, I was recording a Driving with Jack episode last night, and almost got caught up in a car wreck.
Any fans?
No, I think it's more of the hate fans.
Oh man, that would have been good content.
You know what? The video, just everything that could have went wrong did go wrong, so that one's probably not getting posted. But between the
The-
almost car wreck, it was the first time Cynthia was on, so she didn't understand that I was trying to keep I didn't say keep the content short, so she drug it out too long. I was having an argument while driving. It was a whole bad episode from start to end.
That'll go in the blooper reel.
it's gonna go. It's gonna go viral probably. But
Years ago, years ago when I was doing video content for a loan company, we didn't have lighting. So my idea was I would write out my script and I would put it on a window. And one time I'm going through it and I'm probably about 30 or 40 seconds in. I'm feeling good. The script falls right on my face. That went on the blooper reel. I sent that to all of our business partners and I was like, this is what I do for you guys.
But we're talking about like 9 to 5 W-2s, and Tyler kind of touched on it also, and I think Chris touched on it. Like you like your W-2 for the lending side of it, but Tyler touched on doing like alternative investments and other options. But Zuber also brought on I forgot who they were from, but they talked about whole life policies and kind of that infinite banking strategy, and that's actually also what Tyler has branched out to, in his somewhat retirement phase. But you want to touch on that and the benefits of kind of how people use that when they don't have a W-2 for lending?
Yeah, so I was introduced to the use of insurance as your bank account a while back, and I really didn't look into it. And then when I started doing a lot of masterminds, being around, successful or higher earners or knowledgeable people, that topic of the use of insurance just kept on coming up over and over. And so I started kind of going down a rabbit hole of just learning that. I'm more of a kind of jump in first, see how it is, and then so I just kind of dove right in, bought a policy. It wasn't really what I desired or wanted, so I kind of went further and down the rabbit hole of just trying to search for something that would work for me as an investor, and kind of what I thought the policy should be. And I ended up becoming licensed mainly for the fact of learning more or trying to have more access. But it's almost like getting your real estate license to learn about real estate investing. You don't gain anything. You don't really get any more access to information until I found someone on YouTube. IBC Global, Steve Parisi is my mentor, and he kind of opened my eyes to utilizing this. But so this was back in 2019, 2020. I already had the idea that I wanted to leave my W-2. So the idea of getting financing was always that concern, and finding the use of my policies basically has become my own lender, right? So I'm basically doing the lending through my policies. It does take time, so I had to kind of plan ahead, start these policies, capitalize them, but the idea that I can now borrow against them or utilize that, and it's not a real approval process. So there's no one looking at my income or anything. It's really our own funds. So you have access to that. It's when you're requesting a loan versus processing or applying for a loan. So it's really, they'll the insurance company will do that. What they're doing is they're collateralizing your death benefit. So it's really your money, and you're in total control. I like to say I'm still being an honest banker by, even though there's no required monthly payment. I don't even have to pay the interest if I don't want to, but you're kind of just in control of that. Being an honest banker, it just allows those policies to continue to grow so that you can borrow more from it in the future. And that is kind of more my specialty niche now. It's utilizing that and having a little network of clients and a group of people that we're all utilizing this, and we kind of just meet regularly to discuss how to. It's not really rocket science, but it is just a little different and takes some hurdle as far as the idea of using insurance, and people get caught up on the insurance part of it. I view it as just another asset of the buy, borrow, die strategy. Where you're buying an asset, it appreciates, you're tapping into that appreciation via a loan, and then by doing that, you don't create a capital or a taxable event, right? You don't have capital gains because you're not selling it. You're just holding on to the asset, borrowing against it, and then when you pass away, it transfers the wealth to your beneficiaries. That asset could be like most of us, or all of us, are real estate investors. It could be a house, and then you pull a HELOC. So that concept is the same thing, right? You're accessing the equity in your house via a loan, in this case a HELOC, and then you don't, the whole house still continues to appreciate whether you have a mortgage or whether it's free and clear. It appreciates technically the same rate, but the HELOC allows you to tap into that to do, in our case, invest again. So you're kind of having your money work in two places. The use of insurance, and I personally like whole life insurance just for the stability of it. It's the same concept. You could also do your stock portfolio, and do like a securities back line of credit. All of that to me is kind of the same strategy, just different assets.
So Dennis has a question for you. He said, do you think whole life insurance as a tool for capital is only good for people that can put a large amount in every year, or what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, great question. The strategy is being used by a lot of wealthy people. So a lot of times there's a misunderstanding that you require a lot of money. I would say that the size of the policies can be designed for any size, right? There is a little bit more benefits for a slightly, larger policy, and we're not talking, and that's more based on the death benefit. But any amount will work, right? In the designs, and it's not really the size that matters. It's just the consistent cash flow. So that the strategy is you're not creating money out of thin air, right? You're just taking advantage of the flow of money going into your bank account anyway. So we all get some sort of cash flow. Instead of going into your bank account and then going out to do what it's going to do, you're just adding another step, and that same money is flowing into your policy before it goes out to do what it was going to do already. So it's more important to have that consistent flow of money to the policy versus the size. And when we're talking kind of large amount, it could be anything from like dumping in 5,000 a year total, or you could add one or two or how many ever zeros to that. So a lot of clients I have are either doing, mainly they're doing, because we're in kind of the syndication world, it's instead of flowing your money from your bank account to a syndication, you're maybe flowing the money from your bank account to the policy, then to a syndication. So a lot of people just kind of do maybe a $50,000 a year contribution. That could sound a lot, but you're really you still have access to majority of those funds. So it's not like a $50,000 expense that you have to now come up with additional 50,000. It's that same 50,000 that was going to go into the investment goes just into the policy first, and then you're accessing majority of that back out for an investment. But yeah, it really any size can work.
Yes, I have more questions for Tyler. He's not big on social media yet, but I put his LinkedIn profile there. So if you guys want to reach out to him, connect with him on LinkedIn, and he'll get back to you. But yeah, I think that's the biggest thing, right? People always think life insurance is a scam. So I think that's the hardest thing is convincing people that it's just cool. And like you kind of touched on it, Tyler, and Chris was asking like, what's a large amount? So I think people realize that there's a lot of people that have small policies, like they have multiple smaller policies, and they just have these each bucket, right? And they're using these buckets to invest or leverage, or like you're saying, it's growing in multiple places, right?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And that's the stroke, right? So, especially when we're designing things, some people only put maybe their discretionary funds into the policy. That's one size, right? So hey, I have an extra 10,000 a year, that they're gonna now invest that 10,000. So maybe that becomes their size. Some people on the other extreme have all of their funds. So whatever money that comes in as far as their say paycheck, that's what they have flowing through their policy. I'm sort of a in between sort of a person that, um, conservatively, whatever you're going to invest, that's probably the minimum size. But you'll see that over time you could probably do, a lot more. And if you look at all the transactions in your just your regular checking account, you see how much money flows in and out of that, and that gives you an idea of the size policies maybe you could be doing, because all you're doing is mimicking that same thing, but it's just going through your policy as well. So
And can I ask a question about that? So when you say it's going through your policy as well, you're saying that the cash that you're putting in goes through the policy, and then you use it as a loan on the opposite side.
yeah. So the most, I say, tax favorable or beneficial way of doing it is that you're not withdrawing. Like, instead of withdrawing the money, you're collateralizing your policy, and you're accessing the cash value via a loan, which does incur debt servicing that you just have to manage. But, the whole policy continues to grow even though you're accessing that, because the money never left your policy, it's still in there, and you're just borrowing against it. But yeah.
Very good.
Well, Daryl, janitor on fires here, and he's starting another channel. He has like 2 channels, but the main one is Postal Nerd. So go down. He shows different post offices in his area, but I guess he's coming out a new one more about budget travel and personal finance. Stay tuned. There's another question for you. Let's see. Do you suggest about any hold on, I'm trying to share it on this frozen. Maxing out any other areas of wealth management?
What channel is this?
Example, 401k, opening a whole life. Are there better benefits and easier access with whole life?
Yeah, so that's the use of the whole life. The appeal for me personally, or just the insurance, this strategy, is that you're in control of those funds. Um, it's hard because everyone's situation is a little bit different. So uh, I would say for specific situations, it would be best to kind of just have a call, that we can go over details. But generically speaking, for myself, when I started implementing this strategy, I replaced instead of contributing to a 401k, in my case, it's a TSP. I utilized those funds and diverted it to a policy instead. Um, it's purely for the fact that you have full control of your policy, and it can have the same purposes. When you're growing cash, it's not earmarked for specific purposes, or it's not, like a 529 for education. Um, I've stopped any of those and diverted any of those funds to fund my first policy, because you're growing cash value that you have access to, that you can choose. Hey, I'm going to do it for my son's college education, or my retirement funds, or for even maybe long-term care, um, you know, usage. But it's so generically speaking, I would say I like it utilizing it prior to, or before any of those. The caveat would be possibly a match at your company for a 401k. That's often the biggest hurdle to give up because it feels like it's 100% gain. But you can kind of historically look at that. There's a lot of fees even with your 401ks and things. So that's that. So I would say the short answer would be it depends. The but the key would be that I would say if you're having to choose between, say, doing a policy and investing, and say all you had was a certain amount of dollars, and I would say invest first so that you build that cash flow and you get that flow of money going, and put your money to work in that asset first. When maybe things start exiting, or you start exiting deals, or you see that money start flowing back to you, that's kind of the ideal time when you need another warehouse. Just think of this as a supercharged savings account. That the savings account by itself, just sitting there without deposits, doesn't benefit you. It really takes deposits flowing in and technically out of the policy to work, just like a banker, right? You could also look at this strategy as you're starting a banking business, right? You're really starting a banking business. A bank sitting there doesn't generate any income. They need the flow of depositors to then go lend it out to really benefit and grow their business. Similar with your policy, you need that flow back in and out. So if you don't have that cash flow, start that first. Start investing first and do that. Could be your W-2, is your cash flow to fund it. But this is not wealth create. It's not an investment strategy. It's more a capital storage efficiency strategy versus investment strategy. So a lot of times it has a different purpose than a pure investment.
And Tyler mentioned
Yeah.
the company match.
So
I'm
Dennis,
trying to work.
so you gotta check your LinkedIn, Tyler.
Yeah, I'm still trying to work on my HR team to do a company match on down payments for investment properties. It's not going well.
Yeah, so Tyler, then Dennis is reaching out to you on LinkedIn. But yeah, so even like you, Tyler. So last night, that's where I went to a meetup, and they're asking, it's like private, or they're asking for lending for their projects, and like you're saying, you could have a whole life policy, right, or 4% dividends or one on the policy, take a loan off of that, lend it out to someone, earn 12% on that. So your money's growing basically in two places, right? So I think that's a great tool to use. And like Chris mentioned, like maybe as you start retirement phase or retiring early, policies getting set up is what you want to look into, because now it makes getting lending a lot easier if you're not going to have a W-2. But yeah, so what are you, I guess, from a 9 to 5, what is your plans? What skill sets? Because I know you're doing a lot of.
I think the biggest skill set that I'm getting out of my W-2 is leading people and being organized, and because I'm taking the skills of being in charge of like 80 people or so, and this spring I'm going to take those skills and do my third go around starting up the landscaping business. And with that, I think my knowledge base is a lot better about the landscaping industry, plus being a better leader and being able to take better charge and accountability for everything that goes on, so I can push through and be more profitable and stuff. Like I want to next year try to have a few employees, because that was my biggest problem in the past, is that I couldn't get employees to stick around long enough to make it really work and profitable. So I'm hoping that next year I can amplify that to having like a consistent like 60 lawns or so, have a couple employees working, and even try to do like some pressure washing, like have some people reach out and do pressure washing. I don't want to start off, pressure washing is the new aspect to the company, so I don't want to do anything too complicated. Maybe just some concrete work and stuff that's easier to handle.
Nice. Yeah, that seems like it definitely translates directly like over. Like you're almost like subbing out work now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like I said, I just want to get a couple employees. I think my biggest thing is, do I want to try to get people I can pay less, or do I want to try and get people that need a little bit more money, but I don't have to like, watch over their shoulder at the quality of work and stuff. That's kind of where I'm at right now. But I keep thinking to myself, it's like, it's cutting grass. I mean, how hard can someone screw it up? But then I think about some of the people I work with, and I was like,
Yeah.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if the house got burnt down.
Yeah, so firefighter in Kansas, he said, I think this is what you're talking about, that about it being storage and not necessarily a wealth builder. That that's the best way to grow and target at beginners, which makes it feel scammy. So I think that's the kind of negative side of whole life insurance or life policies, is people get that scammy feel from it. So, but that's why I think it's super important who you work with, because like, I don't think I touched on it, but it's also setting up the policies properly, so that would someone who their focus is more using the policy a certain way as much as an insurance. So that's why it's kind of who you work. Reach out to Tyler, go check him out on LinkedIn. I hope you know how to log into your LinkedIn still yet, Tyler.
Yeah. And I mean, what Mark is saying is that, I kind of, I don't really market or target people, but because we're involved with investor group, it's a lot easier that way. But I think the scammy feel is well deserved, right, in the insurance industry, and that was kind of my biggest the push to do what I do to help people in that sense, because there are, I'm not going to say purposely people misleading it, but there is a lot of misinformation. It's a commission based industry, and oftentimes the advisors or the life producers goals is not aligned with the client, and it's hard, and it's really a passion project for me to just kind of help and educate people on it, and because it can be very lucrative as an agent, and you're doing that at the expense of a client. And my focus is to really help the client, even if it's it may be reduced or no commissions at all, but that's kind of my give back to the investment community. But and there's different products, right? With anything, the insurance companies have different products, and then there's of course even just different companies themselves. So like Mark said, probably the word insurance is I don't like it. I mean, I don't openly tell people I'm a life insurance agent as well, just because that's the how I feel if someone were to walk up and tell me that about them, right? And but yeah, I'm a investor that utilizes the strategy, basically.
And even with Mark and some of the lenders that you invite on, Mark, there are people who are out there who are salespeople, and there are people out there who understand the products and want to kind of customize it to people that they know. And I think that's kind of where you're falling, Tyler, when I'm hearing you talk, because I've been told this a lot, and I felt the exact same way that Ike felt. Like, I don't know why you're trying to push me into this. I don't have any cash flow when they were telling me this back 6 years ago.
Yeah.
But now understanding, this is something that you could use once you have certain amount of income that is not reliant, in my opinion, on my W-2, it makes me think.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean there's multi-level marketing groups out there kind of doing this. There's different products. It's hard, right? It's just like if you say invest in real estate, there's a whole gamut of different types. Similar with insurance, and yeah, the key would be the design, and it's not for. I mean, for me, for the way I do it, it's not for everyone, and I probably in the discussions with people, probably majority of them are maybe not good candidates or fits, and that's what the discussion, that's the recommendation.
Hey, so Michelle, thanks for stopping by. She stopped by our channel and Curtis's channel, I'm sure. But Zuber and D are going to be going live in about 5 minutes. I'll leave it up to you guys what you guys want to do. Do you guys want to hang out, chit chat? You guys want to call it a day? But if you guys talk about it, I'll leave it up to you guys. I'm always down to chit chat. So
I think I'll go with them. But before we leave, I will say one thing, kind of along the lines of what we were just talking about with Tyler, and Mark had discussed with me recently about when I had my cookie shop. There's a lot of people there who want to help you for a fee, and I think that that's something similar to what Tyler was just talking about. Is that there are a lot of people out there that want to help you with whole life policies with a fee attached to it, as opposed to somebody who is actually looking at your situation and saying, is this the right fit? And I think that from what I've been hearing with you, Tyler, is kind of what helps you present it a little bit differently. Because I'm very similar to Ike. I wrote this off immediately when I heard it because of the way that it felt very salesy. But the way that you describe it, it's very interesting and it's very intriguing.
Yeah. Yeah, and I was the same. When I first heard it, I wrote it off, right? I didn't listen to it until in the investment circles you're with, and following people maybe a couple steps ahead of you. I would always hear that, so it got me intrigued. But yeah.
But yeah, I appreciate you guys having me on.
So I think the company
Nice to see you.
that Zuber had on was
Good seeing you.
Infinite Wealth Consultants. Heard of them, Tyler? But yeah, we can wrap things up, and then Tuesday I should be getting. Yeah. All right, fellas. Thanks for doing this. Check out Zuber and Dion's live right
Have a
now
good
on
one.
YouTube.